If Nick Sirianni can do that, Jonathan Gannon can do that. Okay,
Yeah.
and I don't really buy the idea. Like when it was infuriating when he came out like whatever a month and a half ago it was and says, we're not a dime team right now. Okay, well guess what? You're also not a nickel team, and you're not a base team because the personnel just is what it is, right? So you can either like die by 1,000 cuts just doing the same thing over and over again. You can at least try throwing like a Avonte Maddox, Marcus Epps, like 6 DBs out there and just see what the hell happens. Like at least if you're going to go down in flames, like do it making sure you've exhausted all your options and trying the different things. I think that's what's infuriating about it is just like.
You got me, Jody Mack, with Jeff Kerr here on Birds 365. We are joined by the lead writer for one of the most popular sports websites here in town, crossingbroad.com. I go there every single day, and I think most of our viewers do as well. Kevin Kinkead joins us here on Birds 365. How are the little ones, Kinkead?
They're doing great, thanks. One is at the nanny right now, and the other is asleep. So we're enjoying the solitude for as long as it'll last right now.
I'll try not to yell, even though I've kind of yelled a couple times.
Oh, no, you're good. She's in another room right now, so it's all good.
I can scream my head off. I don't think I'll have to give you grief for disrespecting Don Mikowski the way that John McMullen did earlier. But in case you missed it, feel free to go back and watch it. KK, one of the reasons why we love having you on and one of the reasons why I love your website is I think you've got a grasp on the fans here in Philadelphia. I think you write for the fans and you understand the fans quite well. Where do you think this fan base is with this team right now? 4-6, improving but not star quarterback, looking a little bit smarter than he did 3 weeks ago as a head coach. Where do you think the fan base is with the Eagles right now?
I think the fan base right now is kind of thinking that they have something that they can work with. Okay, 4-6 isn't horrible considering what we thought this team was going to be coming into the year. If I told you guys through 10 games that with a first-year head coach, first-year defensive coordinator, first-year quarterback playing his first full year as a starter,
right,
that this is where they would be. If I told you 4-6 through 10 games in the summer, I think all three of us would kind of look at each other and say, all right,
Okay.
it's probably like what it is. If you were one of those people who was able to say this is a fact-finding mission, it's a transitional year, we're trying to learn as much as we can. We don't expect the playoffs. If we can sneak into that last wild card spot, great, but nobody's expecting anything like that. I think it's fine. I think you've seen steady improvement, Jody. Nick Sirianni's called 3 good games in a row. The defense played really well in Denver. Jalen Hurts made what I thought was one of his best two best throws of the season in that 3rd and 11 completion to Dallas Goedert, and then the bomb that he threw to Quez Watkins, which was dropped. And he's showing some flashes of addressing deficiencies that we had identified coming into the season. So if you're Posidelphia and you're able to go glass half full, there's enough that you can focus on based on what we've seen these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Kevin, I've noticed too, just based on my Twitter account, you're getting a lot more positive vibes toward Jalen Hurts than, say, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And I still get the negative ones that say, well, it's garbage time. Well, yeah. It turns out they're proven wrong on that stat. Like, how are Eagles fans grasping Jalen Hurts right now?
I think they're looking for – I think they're correctly kind of compartmentalizing what he is and what he needs to be. And I think everybody knew coming into the season, he was a guy who could scramble, extend plays, use his legs, get out and run, QB powers with lead blockers and stuff like that. That was all evident on the Alabama tape and the Oklahoma tape. I think what he's doing now that's better and what people said that he needed to do, stuff that was identified on scouting reports and every draft report that was written up by anybody who does anything with the draft was, can he scan the field? Can he go through his progressions? Can he step up into the pocket, or is he going to vacate? He's been showing little glimpses of that here and there. There's not a ton. I couldn't do an entire story with like 10 video clips showing you of him stepping into the pocket and going through reads, but I got enough to do like 3 video clips of that. Right. So there's like a start, there's something to build off of here. And if you're saying, hey, this is what he needed to do, this was his biggest thing that he needed to do to prove that he's an NFL QB1 of the future, then that's it, And I think where I am with Jalen right now, if I had to like sum it up into like one sentence that you write at the top of the thesis before you turn it into your professor, it's like, I don't know if Jalen Hurts can win you a game with his arm, but I think the Eagles can win with Jalen Hurts. So that's kind of where I see it right now.
One of the things that I liked about Nick Sirianni from the day that he was hired, and it was kind of tough that first press conference to pick out the optimistic sides of it, but he did say that I'm going to be an open-minded head coach, that I'm not going to try and put the square peg in the round hole, that I'm going to coach to the strengths of my team. Well, he did that with Jalen Hurts, and he went heavy RPOs at the beginning of the season. Where he showed his flexibility to me was he got away from it. He didn't keep saying that, well, I know what I think of Jalen, and this is what's going to work best for him. No, they moved to a run-heavy offense. That showed me his true flexibility, and I think that's as big an attribute as a head coach can have in the National Football.
And isn't that one of the biggest complaints, Jody, the fans always have about coaches is that square peg round hole mentality and trying to shoehorn guys, trying to take guys and fit them into your scheme. Yep. Versus taking what you have and building around it, And so if anybody's looking for the biggest thing to hang their hat on and be positive about with Sirianni, it's the fact that he has adjusted. When they beat the tar out of the Lions a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of negadelphia on Twitter, and Jeff can speak to this too, of everybody was saying, it's just a Lions. It doesn't matter. They're crap. They stink, whatever, right? Okay, well, like I'm a big believer that more than one thing can be true at the same time. Okay, so the Lions do stink. That's correct. But Nick Sirianni also showed a willingness to adapt and do something different. And coming into the Chargers game, I was sitting there thinking, it doesn't matter if they lose to the Chargers. I think it was a moral victory Monday kind of takeaway because they continued to do the things that made them successful in Detroit. So now we have a continuation of that's extending on 3 weeks now, maybe 4 if you want to go back to the beginning of the Vegas game where they came out and ran the ball with Miles Sanders before he got injured. So if all you're asking for from a coach is a willingness to evolve and adapt and play to the strengths of his team, then Nick Sirianni's doing that right now.
Kevin, do you want this team to make the playoffs? Do you think I should go by the fan perspective here. What are the fans thinking right now? They're in the playoff hunt. As much as we hate to admit it, it's the 6 and 7 seed in the NFCs it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. You're always trying to walk a line, where I think it's like you like realistically, we know that they're not. This team's not winning the Super Bowl, right? I think we can all safely say that. It would be nice for them to go on an amazing Cinderella kind of run, But listen, if they get to 9-8 and they crash out in the front, they get that wild card spot and they lose in the first round, it's fine. They still get Miami's pick. They're going to get the Carson Wentz first rounder is going to convey. And they still have like a middle round natural pick, and that playoff experience is kind of invaluable. Can you put a price on that? To get Jalen Hurts into a playoff game, get Nick Sirianni into a playoff game. You think of the momentum that you can take. I'm kind of a believer. I don't know if you guys are or not, of the idea of like carrying momentum through an offseason based on what you did the year before. And if you can go to the playoffs and say, hey, look at what we did last year, then the guys are thinking differently of themselves over the summer. So maybe you try to find that sweet spot, tread the line. If they can make the playoffs at 9-8, great. But I don't think anybody expects them to do anything. So, you're walking the tightrope there.
Thank you very much for giving me a great segue here. The coach that gave me the best explanation ever about carrying momentum from one year to the other was the guy who the Eagles are going up against this week, Sean Payton. I had him on after the Saints had finished strong one year, didn't make the playoffs, but won a bunch of games at the end of the year. And I asked him, stated it just the way you did, carrying momentum from one year to another. Can you actually do that? And he directly answered me, goes, no. I said, really? Not at all? He goes, no, here, Jody, here's how it has to happen. If you finish strong and you can carry that into your off-season program, and you can get all the guys sharp and you get the work done and you know what you want to accomplish and you get all, and then you carry that into your camp and you know what you want to get done in camp and you add the right guys and you've got the right players and you made the right draft picks and the free agent did, then you carry that into your preseason games and you get a little taste of it. Then you can carry it into week 1. But he goes week 17 in one season to week 1 of next year. No, there's a whole bunch of that's happening in between. And if all that happens, yes, you can go from one to the other. And I thought it was one of the best explanations I had ever heard. So that's the guy they're facing this week. It does give me pause. Can Nick Sirianni be outcoached this week?
Can he be outcoached? Sure, but if he calls the game that he has been calling the last couple weeks, then offensively from a scheming and from a play calling standpoint, I think he controls that in a vacuum. Now, if you're talking about game situations, is he going to maybe if there's a tricky fourth down and plus territory or something like that? Sure, I still think he has a ways to go there, and I think the thing, Jody, that like people probably need to focus more on or haven't talked about enough with Nick Sirianni this year is not only is he learning how to be a play caller for the first time, he's learning how to be a head coach for the first time. This guy's he's taking on so much, and to not have like a veteran. I think most of these guys come in and they're like a first year coach or whatever. They hire like a dude who's been in the league for 15 years. These guys are all young and they're all new. So for him to take all that on at the same time, I think he certainly needs to learn that part of the game for sure, the game management. So to answer your question, I would say yes.
Yeah. So Kevin, back to Jalen Hurts a little bit. Now, I feel like the fan base, they're not selling him as a franchise quarterback, obviously. And like you said, they're kind of taking it 1 week at a time. But are they starting to come around to he might be the quarterback next year?
I think they are, and I think they want him to be. Like, I hate to use this cliche, but it's true. Cliches are also true, and stereotypes are also true. But when you talk about guys who are quote unquote easy to root for, like, yeah, Jalen Hurts, like you want to see him win. He's got all the intangibles. He's got the heart. He's got the mindset, the mentality. The guts to take the ball and run and do a front flip over a dude for a first down. Like this. Teddy Bridgewater ain't doing that. Right. So, nor is he trying to make a tackle when a guy's right next to him. So, I think that they're hoping that. I think they're leaning to that. But everybody, the criticism has always been like, look, is Jalen Hurts' arm good enough to win in the NFL? Right. That's kind of like 1A. 1B is then you ask yourself, and this is where I'm at trying to answer this question. Do you have to be X kind of thrower to be successful? Can they do some kind of Lamar Jackson replication here in Philadelphia where he doesn't have to throw the ball more than 30 times a game? Can you successfully run consistently in a throwing league? That's kind of where I'm at. To me, it's more of a philosophical thing. I don't think Jalen Hurts is ever going to be, Matt Stafford or whatever, but he can, they're winning games by running the ball and letting him extend plays and use his legs too. So it's more of a philosophical macro kind of question for me than anything individual at this point.
Speaking of philosophical, and we've given Nick Sirianni some pretty good credit here today, last couple of days here on Birds 365, because he's earned it. He's got a little bit of a test to pass this week. Miles Sanders coming back. He announced before he was ever eligible to play that he was good to play, and he's coming back. He was the Eagles' #1 back. He wasn't doing badly before he got hurt. It's just the guys who have stepped in for him did a little bit better than he had up until this point. So now you got 3 backs into one role. You can do 2 into 1. Can you do 3 into 1? Does Kenny Gainwell become the odd man out? The test of how he's going to deploy his backs might be the biggest test that Nick Sirianni has had to this point this season. How would you handle it, KK? How do you think Coach Sirianni will?
How would I handle it? I give you the 3-headed monster, man. Ground and pound, baby. Okay. 3 yards in a cloud of dye. Run the ball 24 times. I give Jordan Howard 8 carries. I'd give Boston Scott 8 carries. I'd give Miles Sanders 8 carries as well. Because look, I mean, you're running, how many offensive plays you running in a game? Like somewhere from like 50, I think the average is like 58 to like 70. Carson Wentz is playing like an average. The reason I know that off the top of my head is because we're doing the Carson Wentz snap count tracker, and he's playing like 64 snaps a week, right? So you can run the ball, 35 times and still pass it 25 times. I think there's enough if they wanted to do that. The problem is when they get into their called passing plays where Jalen ends up taking it with his feet. If I had to give you a different kind of answer, though, I would definitely probably give you Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard. I think if you're looking for redundancy and skill set, I think Boston Scott runs a little bit more like Miles Sanders, while Jordan Howard's more of the north-south guy. But Boston hits the hole hard, man. I think Miles Sanders is dancing. He wants to stretch to the outside. Like, there's part of me who could justify the argument that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and just let Miles Sanders be RB3 for this one and see what happens.
Obviously, Kevin Howie Roseman gets a lot of criticism, on this stream, on pretty much any platform imaginable. But you have to kind of give him credit for these first 2 draft picks, right? Devonta Smith's been good, and Landon Dickerson's been good.
Yeah. Listen, and there was a play. Okay, so it was the Devonta Smith, the first touchdown, from the first touchdown that he caught the other day. There were 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there were 5 Alabama guys involved in that play. Okay, it was an Alabama quarterback being protected by an Alabama guard, throwing to an Alabama receiver who was covered by an Alabama cornerback with an Alabama safety of 10 years ago running into the play, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, it was just what we were talking about over the summer, Jody. I think like the last time, or like not last time, but 2 times when I came on with you guys, it was like it just keep it obvious. Draft from the SEC, draft the best guys that are there. Like, do not go to see Pittsburgh versus UNC. We don't need Kenny Pickett in the Sam Howell game. Like, seriously, let's just like keep it simple. Draft from the best conference, and good things will happen. So I think with Howie, sometimes it's like the criticism, I think, has always been like he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and sometimes less is more.
All right, got to ask this question about this game at home this week. Eagles are 0-4 at home. Now, they've been an underdog in all 4 games. If you believe that Vegas knows what they're talking about, they weren't supposed to win any of them. And oh, by the way, they didn't. Some of them competitive, could have won. San Francisco, others not as competitive. Even the score may look like that. Tampa could have stuck it in the end zone one more time to make it a 2-score game. They chose not to. If they struggle early here in the first quarter on Sunday, will we get boo birds at Lincoln Financial?
Well, real quick, my favorite statistic of the season is that the Eagles and Temple have 2 wins combined at Lincoln Financial Field, and it's against the Wagner Seahawks and the Memphis Tigers. So I don't know exactly what's going on with that.
I'm not shocked by Temple, by the way.
No, exactly. Nobody's really defending the home fortress, as they say, right?
No.
But to answer the question, yes, I think you'll get boo birds. And it seems weird to think that like a 4-6 team would have any kind of expectations. But based on the way that they've looked the last couple of weeks, which is an improving team that has a winnable game at home, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that fans would grumble if they can't, get off the schneid at home. Like they should win a damn home game. Like if they were 2-2 at home and they were 5-5 on the season, whatever. But now that you've shown something, like, yes, the expectations exponentially increase from thing to thing to thing. It's like a continuous linear kind of thing. Like you were saying, Jody, with Sean Payton talking about offseason momentum. No, you're not going to play in week 17, in week 1, the way you played in week 17 last year, but it's like incrementally one thing at a time leads to the next thing, leads to the next thing. And if you're following that sequentially, then yeah, they should expect a good performance in a home win against the Saints. Why not?
So this brings up my next point, Kevin. Obviously, they don't have a home game after this for I think it's a month, because you go to New York twice, you have the bye week, then you come home. But do you think the lack of travel? I don't think they go anywhere the rest of the year. If I stand corrected there, how much do you think that helps them?
Yeah, they don't get on a plane for the.
I don't think they do.
Yeah, right. That was I mean, people were pointing that out when we were doing our win-loss predictions when the schedule came out. It's like, oh, they don't go on a plane from like week 10 to week 17 or something. That's certainly helpful. I mean, I think like those East Coast road trips, like if you're flying down to Florida or something like that, it's not a big deal. And sports science has advanced so far that like these teams know exactly when to travel, exactly when to get in, the perfect way to maximize sleep schedule. And, as Nick Sirianni would say, they're attacking rest, right? So they got all that stuff figured out. But yeah, I mean, the fact that they don't have to leave the Eastern Seaboard, I guess, for the rest of the season bodes well for them. But it also shows like the different kind of pressure. You're going to have to show that you can win at home. Now you're going to have these division games. Like everybody's saying, well, maybe they sweep the Giants, maybe they sweep the Reds, because the division games aren't easy. Like those teams know each other. Like it's the stakes are always high. That's why I didn't like when Carson won those 4 games in a row a couple years ago. People kind of poo-pooed that because like all those teams stink. Well, they're still division rivals. Like there's still games that are harder. So I don't remember what the question was at all, but I will toss it back to you on that.
It was pretty much a momentum thing, like
Yeah.
they don't have to go. I pretty much went on a tangent too. Like they don't have to go on a plane. Then I was like, wait a minute, they don't go on a plane. I think the only thing they do is I think they go on a train for
Well, it's one less excuse that somebody could make for us. Say, well, you don't have to fly to the West Coast. You don't got to play Vegas in Vegas. You don't got to go out to LA or any of that. So it's another thing to say that, like, hey, like 8 or 9 or 9 or 8 is not out of the question. Like I'm kind of like you have two different philosophies here. You can be a guy who sets like a goal at the beginning of the year and it's hard and fast and you don't move it, or you can keep moving the goalposts as the season progresses and say, okay, this team is different now than they were in week 1. So if you're one of those goalpost mover ladder philosopher kind of people, you could say, yeah, the expectations are different now and they should win some of these games.
All right, KK, I'll borrow the phrase you just used that Nick Sirianni uses all the time. Attacking, when in doubt, attack everything.
Yeah.
Except for the defensive coordinator who doesn't buy into that. He plays his own defense. He's not going to get gashed. He's going to keep everything in front of him. They had a superior defensive effort this week. I give more credit to the players than the DC. I think they upped their game, specifically the 4 guys on the defensive line, got pressure without adding a blitzer. Darius Slay makes this huge play, game-turning play, just being Johnny on the spot, but then being the athlete that he is to be able to do it. I still would like to see the Eagles be more aggressive on defense. Are the Saints a good team to do that against?
I would think so, because, listen, Drew Brees ain't back there anymore. So
be careful with Trevor Siemian. I'm a Trevor defender. He threw for almost 300 last week against a good Titan defense.
I know. I was going to ask you if we had time at the end about your guy Geno Smith too. I thought I might throw that in there and see if you were a Geno, if you had converted to a Geno guy.
No. Never, ever.
Hey, listen. Yeah, to answer the question, yeah, they do have to be more aggressive, and you want to see if Nick Sirianni is capable of evolving and doing different things and committing to running the ball and throwing different wrinkles out there too. They scored a touchdown on a max protect on Sunday. They moved the pocket by design a couple times as well. They're doing more than just running the ball. The passing game has evolved at the same time. If Nick Sirianni can do that, Jonathan Gannon can do that. Okay, And I don't really buy the idea. Like it was infuriating when he came out like whatever a month and a half ago it was and says, we're not a dime team right now. Okay, well, guess what? You're also not a nickel team and you're not a base team because the personnel just is what it is, right? So you can either like die by 1,000 cuts just doing the same thing over and over again. You can at least try throwing like a Avonte Maddox, Marcus Epps, like 6 DBs out there and just see what the hell happens. Like at least if you're going to go down in flames, like do it, making sure you've exhausted all your options and trying the different things. And I think that's what's infuriating about it. Is just like, this stubbornness to say, and he has mixed it up a little. Like the Chargers game, he did mix it up and throw some different looks out there. But in terms of talking about pressure, strictly pressure, then yeah, you have to give the front 4 help because you can't expect those guys to just like be able to generate pressure naturally as a 4-man rush every single time out there.
Kevin, I kind of wanted to go general Philly sports right now. Obviously, we know what I feel like the hype around the Eagles is higher, but maybe that's because Sixers don't Joel Embiid right now because of COVID. Flyers, it's early. College basketball is just starting. Baseball's over. Like, do you feel like this is just that time of year where fans just need something to grasp onto and the Eagles are the main game in town?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always fluctuations like that. I remember when I was doing the union beat back in the day, I'd always say to those guys, like the coaches and the players and stuff, I'm like, hey, the other team, the 4-for-4 teams stink right now. Like, this is your window.
Yeah, there you go.
If you want to like grab anything, like go do it and like win games.
They got one Saturday too. They got their opportunity on this weekend.
Yeah, they have a playoff game on Saturday. So I think these things are all like cyclical, and I think when one team's up, another team's down for sure. And I think that's certainly, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys, like you've worked in Philly media longer than I have, or as long as I have. And like the Eagles pay the bills for all of us. You can always get people to read the Eagles. However, website traffic at crossingbroad.com was much better yesterday and the day before than it was last week. Right. So I think there's certainly the ebbs and flows for the other teams. Maybe they go like this. Okay. But for the Eagles, it's more of like an oscillating kind of thing, where people are ready to, I don't think anybody's ever fully off the bandwagon. You know, there's always one leg that's kind of dangling out there, and then they rip off a couple wins. And it's like, all right, we're believers again. So it's good to see, you know, because the Philly sports scene is better when the Eagles are good. You know, you could say that about any of the teams for sure, but I think it's more concentrated on the football team in town.
All right, I'm glad you brought it back to football, not the other football, soccer. You two, soccer.
I'll get you on board one of these days, Jody. I'll take you down to a game.
Never gonna happen. Kevin, don't even bother. Save your time, save your breath. It's never gonna. And now I defend myself all the time. I'm not a soccer hater. Most people either have to be tremendous soccer fans and it's the most underrated sport on the planet, blah, blah, blah. And or I hate soccer. God, the soccer moms are the worst thing on the face.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care about soccer. I'm not going to badmouth it, but I don't care, and I'm never going to care. But
that's okay. We would claim progress with that, just to have people not actively hating our sport anymore.
No, I don't hate soccer. I don't like soccer. I don't care about soccer.
You have the same
without soccer.
You have the same attitude as Glen Macnow. So one of these days, I'll get both of you guys down to the stadium. I'll buy Glenn a couple of nasty IPAs.
Oh, by the way, that's 100% false. Macnow hates soccer. I don't hate it. Macnow hates it. I know that. I sat in.
Can you imagine
for 7 years.
Jody Mack and Macnow into a room, Mac and Mac watching soccer and F1 on a Sunday morning?
We would have to dial up
we'll do the IP thing, but it's got to be some Odd Couple reruns.
Well, we would have to do it like a Peyton and Eli thing, and we put you guys side by side watching the soccer game. We'd get your reaction to
it. They'd be like, "Wait, that you get taken out the field for that? That's a normal tackle."
Could be a decent YouTube show. All right, last thing, KK, and again, thank you very much for coming on. Glad the little one stayed asleep. Your comment section on your website is some of the most fun reading I do. And I know you've got to stay on top of it. It's kind of your job, but I think you choose to do it anyway. Do you actually read them while the game is playing? Do you wait till the game is over and then minutes after the game you get on there? Do you want to give it a good couple hours to percolate and let them build up? Do you wait till Monday? When is the first time when the Eagles kick it off? Till the first time you go to the comment section of your website?
So believe it or not, we actually got rid of the comment section entirely. So now the angry responses come strictly via Facebook, and
Facebook.
a lot of people have a lot of people have transferred over there, as I'm sure you can imagine. But I try to not read them at all. However, here's the thing, like readers are good about like pointing out, hey, like there's a typo here or there's a whatever or something like that. Usually they'll say it in a very mean way, like you guys suck. You can't even like, you don't even have an editor or whatever, but regardless, I get to change the thing that's wrong in the whatever. So I'm trying to kind of detox off of that a little bit, but I reluctantly kind of have to be the gatekeeper of the comments to make sure everybody's like keeping it at least somewhat civil. But yeah, we got rid of the site comments a while back, so now all the anger and misinformation now takes place on Facebook.
So do people still mistake you for Kyle, or do they know that Kyle just basically is not the day-to-day operation?
That went on for a while, but I think people have it straight now. The thing is that people don't realize that we do a lot of satire and like sardonic, kind of like sarcastic kind of things. So people think we're being serious about a lot of stuff. Like when I say Eagles legend Jason Babin, like I'm being very sarcastic, but some people
part about it.
So I think we got to do a disclaimer, maybe just to remind everybody, like, hey, we're not a journalism website. We do journalism occasionally, but like, we're a sports blog. We like to have fun. We like to keep it light. We do a lot of like sarcastic and satirical kind of stuff. So just a reminder, maybe we'll paste that at the top of the website and never let it leave,
Well, I thought you were all over the most important story of all of Philadelphia sports this week. The win by the Phillies, or the agreement by the Phillies to get the honest and true fanatic back in his cut. Who friggin' cares? Oh my God!
Well, my favorite thing was,
please shoot me if I need to read another fanatic article.
My favorite thing was the creators, Bonnie and Wade, whatever their names are, whatever they said. Well, we're really enthusiastic about the fanatic being able to continue for the fans and all that stuff. They're enthusiastic because they got a fat wad of cash out of this thing. That's what they're enthusiastic about.
Okay, Kevin. So I got to add this one on too. How much did Crossing Broad's traffic go up when the whole they're wearing black pants for the first time with their white jerseys. I went nuts when they did that.
People love that stuff. I mean,
I did too.
People, and I don't really get it because I'm partially colorblind, so I can't see what they're wearing anyway. To me, it looked like they were wearing white on green the other night. But people love that stuff. You do those kinds of stories, the Sixers City Edition uniforms, things like that. Fans love that stuff. Even if I did a story where I just wrote Kelly Green as the headline and wrote crap in the story itself, like it would probably get like 1,000 clicks, because fans just love that stuff. I uniform combinations, colors, graphics, images, and stuff like that. Maybe we, the grumpy media, don't really get that so much, but the fans seem to love it. So that's an automatic,
So, Kevin, I'm the worst person in the world. I'm the one guy who can probably tell you when the Eagles wore green on green, what their 96 jerseys looked like the first year they went to midnight green, and how they changed. They should just call me the modern day Paul Lucas.
They should. Yeah, and they should ask for the opinions of the grumpy media and then maybe do the exact opposite of what we give them, because that probably works for the fans. It reminds me of when Chris Heck said, I hate the black uniforms, but then he reluctantly did the black uniforms anyway because all the Sixers fans wanted them anyway.
We didn't get the black uniforms, but he didn't do the ones we wanted.
I know we didn't get the Matt Geiger black uniforms. We got the new Philadelphia Boathouse Row, but you can't win everything, right?
No.
All right, Kinkead, your job, and if you choose to accept it and you don't really have a choice, is to come up with a Kelly Green fanatic, somehow mix Gritty in there while you're at it, article over the next 24 hours and see if you get 10,000 clicks on that.
I'll just drop that on the website in the morning and we'll call it a day, and that'll be my one. And we'll have enough traffic to ride it out for the rest of the
on a slow day in June. Just right. Kelly Green, Kelly Green, Kelly Green, Kelly Green, Kelly Green. Oh, and then put at the bottom, by the way, the Eagles cannot debut Kelly Green to 2023 because Jeffrey Lurie and the brass are morons.
And then I'll get in my car and I'll drive to the Poconos and go hiking and know that the website's doing just fine without me. So.
There you go. We appreciate you coming on with us today. Thank you much, Bud. Enjoy the game on Sunday. We'll get you back in a couple of weeks.
My pleasure, gentlemen. Anytime.
Kevin Kinkead, Crossing Broad, a little behind-the-scenes stuff there. There are topics of sports that Philadelphia fans, at least for my estimation, get a little too vexed and or juiced by. But, hey, to each his own. We've got only a couple of minutes left here on Birds 365. You need to come back as we put a bow on it.